be hidden. But we have to remember in these 5 years that's been going on that the number 5 is the number for grace. And we have to thank God every day for his grace just to keep us from standing. Some of us wouldn't have made it this far if it wasn't for God's grace and mercy. Some of you would have lost your mind. I heard the grief counselor talking. Some of you would have had a nervous breakdown. But by the grace of God, do I have anybody in the house that knows about the grace of God? By the grace of God, you still here. By the grace of God, you still standing. If somebody had walked today in your shoes, they'll give you your shoes back and say you can have them. Because they don't know your story. But you know your story. You know that every time you go through something, you just a praise away. I know we had a grief that I remember me, but if it had not been for the Lord on your side, I don't have no real folks in here, but if it had not been for the Lord, some of y'all may say, I can't get to that, but when I think of the goodness of Jesus, I lost a brother. A year and a half after that brother, I lost another brother. A year and a half after that brother, I lost a sister. And I was faced with something 3 weeks ago. Brother Moore, don't hold me accountable for it. I'm glad it wasn't in this city because you can't charge me. 3 weeks ago, I was head accountable. And the business that I was in, they called me, and I went out. It was about 9 o'clock at night. And I went out, and I went to this door, and I'm so glad I went in this door. You have they can't get me. And I went to the door. And I went to the door and knocked on the door to take care of the business. And the young man answered the door. And the young man that answered the door was the young man that was the last one seen with my brother. And I have said, if I ever see you, this is the preacher talking. I said, I ain't always been a preacher. I said, if I ever see you, that grief that been built up on the inside, I said, I'm going to deal with you because I know when you got together, something took place, something happened, that it was not an accident that happened. It was not something that my brother fell down the steps. It was none of that. I understood what took place because I heard about what took place. And it happened to say that I met him at his door, at his house. Knocked on the door, he answered the door, I was on the phone, I hung the phone up, I said, I'll talk to you later. Who I had on the phone now. He said, come on in. I said, yes, I am coming in. I'm coming in. Now, this was over 8 or 9 years ago that my oldest brother passed. And how ironic it is that I'm going to find this young man in a place that he shouldn't be, in a place that just the incident that took place, that I'm taking the legitimate business and the business that I'm in. And I walked in, he said, come on in. And I walked in and I shut the door behind me. Nobody knew I was there. Nobody knew what was going on. He said, wait a minute, I'm going to go back in my room. I knew what he was going back in his room for. He came back and he came to sit down and he had his hands folded. He sit down. When he sit down, I stood, I was still standing. I said, yeah, I got the upper hand on you now. He was drinking. He had a bottle sitting there. So me being who I am, a man of the cloth, a man of God. But I wasn't thinking about God then. I was thinking, well, I got this bottle, and he got a gun, but I got this bottle. And he's sitting down, and I know I can get him if I wanted to get him. Nobody knew I was there. Nobody knew where I was at. It was just he and I. No evidence would ever take place. I didn't have to worry about more because it wasn't in his jurisdiction. I didn't have to worry about Hamlet coming by because it wasn't in their jurisdiction. But I sit there and I contemplated for that was the longest 3 minutes of my life. Sitting there looking at this young man that I knew had been a part of taking my brother's life. I don't have no real folks in the house. I know y'all never deal with nothing like that. I know y'all just had peace about it, wasn't going to try to get even. Wasn't worried about it, just hokey dokey about everything. I knew that was y'all, but that wasn't me. And I was faced with this over 3 weeks ago. And I sit there and I looked in that man's eyes, and all I see was me breaking that bottle, and I'm getting ready to get him. And I'm going to get some justice for my brother. I'm going to help the jurisdiction system out. I was going to get some justice for him. And then I looked at him, and I looked at him. God spoke to me. He said, is it worth it? I said, I don't want to hear you right now, Lord. He said, is it worth it? I'm looking at him. He's looking bad, all dried up. He said, can you do anything worse to him that I've already done? I said, well, it'll feel good to me. He said, but he's already dead because he has to live with what he done to someone else. He said, the best thing you can do is walk out of here having peace, knowing that you overcame the worst day of your life. Now, just for a few minutes, I want you to think about the worst day of your life. That was losing your child, losing that loved one. That was the worst day. Now, you remember that feeling right now. But look at this. If that was your worst day didn't break you, you're still here. You are still here. So you are left here to bring life to someone else that's been in your shoes. You can tell your story. Don't nobody else know your story better than you know it. And I know time heals, time brings on changes. Sometimes you can't get over it. But just for a few seconds, I'm going to take my seat. I am a preacher, so I better hurry up and leave. But they put my coat down. I'm done. But for a few seconds, I just want you to take time out of your schedule, time in this remembrance, and what's going on in this lesson. I'm so honored to be here. Just time out to look back and just thank God for the time you did have with that person. Just thank God for the time that you shared. It may have been short, it may have been long, but you did still have time to spend with them. And you can thank God for that time. Now, if you can thank God for that time, this is a good place right now that you can thank God for that time. And every year that takes place, you build on it. Build on it. It's not going to die. It's going to build. It's going to build. Because the content now is left in you. You have the spirit of that person. You have the life of that person. Now you never let that person die. And I thank God for y'all allowing me in. I just thank God. I just thank God. I just thank God.